ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Yamuna Mai ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Good morning, Hare Krishna, dear assembled devotees. Grateful to be here with all of you. So today is the Rathayatra festival, which is happening in Jagannath Puri, to my understanding, and also the disappearance day of Swarup Damodar and Shivananda Sain, two of Lord Chaitanya's associates. So these will be the topics of discussion for this class. And there wasn't an assigned verse, so I chose this well-known verse from Gopi Gita because it is relevant in multiple ways, as we will see. So this is a beautiful verse, which was recited by Prataparudra Maharaj to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya went into ecstasy and wanted Prataparudra to recite this again and again and again because he was so pleased by it. And also relates to the reason Jagannath looks the way he does. So we'll explore those and other angles of this Rathayatra through this verse. Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavibir iditam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimad Atatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhuridajana Tavakatamratam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimad Atatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhuridajana Tavakatamratam Tapta Jivanam Kavibhir Iditam Kalmashapaham Shavanamangalam Srimadattatam Bhuvigrinantiye Bhuridajana. Please chant, dear devotees.
Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibhiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadattatam Bhuvigrananti Ye Bhuridajana.
Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavivireditam kalmashapaham Savanamangalam Simadattatam Bhuvignatiye Bhurirajana.
Hare Krishna. Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavividam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadattatam Bhuvignanti Ye Bhuridajana.
Hare Krishna. Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam navidiriditam kamashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadattatam Purigunantiye Puridajunam.
Hare Krishna. Tava kathamrutam tapta jivanam kabibiriditam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatitam Bhuvi grunanti te bhurida janaha.
Avakatamritam tapta jivanam kavibiriditam kalmasapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatatam Bhuvi grinantiye bhurida jana.
Thank you all very much. So we'll go on. Synonyms: Tava, your; Kata Amritam, the nectar of words; Tapta Jivanam, life for those aggrieved in the material world; Kavibhi, by great thinkers; Iditam, described; Kalmasha Apaham, that which drives away sinful reactions; Shavana Mangalam, giving spiritual benefit when heard; Srimat, filled with spiritual power; Atatam, broadcast all over the world; Bhuvi, in the material world; Grananti, chant and spread; Ye, those who; Bhurida, most beneficent; Jana, persons. Translation: the nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly, those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. Purport: King Prataparudra recited this verse to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during Lord Jagannatha's Rathayatra festival. While the Lord was resting in a garden, King Prataparudra humbly entered and began massaging his legs, lotus feet. Then the king recited the 31st chapter of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the songs of the gopis. The Chaitanya Charitamrita relates that when Lord Chaitanya heard this verse, beginning Tava Katamritam, he immediately arose in ecstatic love and embraced King Prataparudra. The incident is described in detail in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 14, 4-18, and in his edition, Srila Prabhupada has given extensive commentary on it. So translation one more time, such a wonderful verse. The nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly, those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Vishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So my intention here is to illuminate some angles of vision. And this will not be exhaustive in any way. It's actually not possible to fully enumerate all of the angles of vision of one single verse or of Lord Jagannath's Rathayatra festival, because they're unlimited. Lord Krishna is unlimited. He's Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadam, Ananta Rupam. He has unlimited forms. His pastimes are unlimited. His qualities are unlimited. The descriptions of him are unlimited. Each verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is unlimited. So there's no possibility of coming to the end of the angles of vision we can explore. Srila Prabhupada encouraged us to study the Shastra from different angles of vision, because this sharpens your intelligence. We can look at one verse or one idea in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta and think we understand it. Okay, I've got this. But there's much more if we see it from a different angle. And with the with the Rathayatra festival, you can just imagine, we were in New York, many of us, last weekend. And how many people were there? 10,000 or more probably. And each person there had a unique experience of the Rathayatra festival. And that's just 1 year. It has gone on for many, many years. And it goes on in many countries in this world. So many millions of people have been touched by Rathayatra. And how many different angles of vision are there, just from passers-by or devotees who have attended? So my intention is to speak on a few angles of vision of this verse in relation to the Rathayatra festival. And we'll look forward to hearing your thoughts afterwards. So the Rathayatra festival is an amazing thing because it allows people who are on the lowest level of consciousness to immediately come in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and make enormous spiritual advancement. And it also reveals the highest expression of love and separation, relished by Lord Krishna himself as Lord Chaitanya. So it simultaneously touches the hearts of the most degraded and the most elevated, even to the limit of the Supreme Lord himself. This Rathayatra festival is so amazing. So at the lowest level, tapta jivanam, so those who are suffering, those who are aggrieved in the material world. Any passerby in New York City last weekend, whether they were intoxicated, whether they were clean, whether they were intelligent, whether they were young or old, whatever ideas they had, if they're atheistic, if they are a violent person, if they're a criminal, anybody who witnessed the Rathayatra festival, at the least, they could understand, they could appreciate, if they have good fortune, that these people are happy. This dancing is nice. This music is really nice. Or they come and get the free feast. They can appreciate, this food is wonderful. Wow, what is this? New varieties of food. Just drinking the lemonade that was offered there. They can appreciate, wow, this is fantastic. Just like Srila Prabhupada encouraged an alcoholic that you can drink wine and think, Krishna is the taste of this wine, because Krishna says, I am the taste of water. So even someone at the lowest level of consciousness, even someone in animal consciousness, we understand that actually people who are living in this world and they have no connection with spiritual life, they're practically animals on two legs because they're doing the same thing: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. But even people in this lowest level of consciousness can derive benefit from the Rathayatra festival. It's a street party. From their perspective, it's a great big street party. And if they're not envious, they can see that devotees are so blissful, and you have to become attracted. Why are these people so happy, jumping up and down? You don't see something like that ordinarily, especially for people who are sober. If you ever see something close to what we do in the Rathayatra festival, generally it's when people are intoxicated. So perhaps people think we are. And in fact, yes, we are intoxicated, but it's a different type of intoxication, which the Lord bestows upon us when we say his names. One practical takeaway here is that when devotees hold Rathayatra festivals, we should make sure that they're appealing to the senses of these people in lowest consciousness. We should make sure that the sound quality is very good of our speakers. The microphones and the speakers should be set up nicely so that people can hear the sweet sound of the holy name. The singers should sing in melodies that are sweet and appreciable. And the food should be made expertly. And ideally, there's also options of local varieties that people are used to. It's nice to have some exotic foods, but some people might not be interested. So if we have pizza available, whatever the local food might be, depending on the country, so it can appeal to the senses of these lower conscious people, and they can appreciate and make advancement. So then, even further, for people who are a little more advanced, who have an understanding that life is not meant just for sense gratification. Actually, we're not supposed to, and there are higher ways of being in the world. Of course, this is just sense gratification, this karma kanda understanding that I do good acts in this world and I go to higher worlds so I can enjoy. But it's a little bit higher understanding than just base sense gratification. So someone who is in this higher stage of consciousness, they understand that I can elevate my life and there are other worlds to which I can go after this life. So there's a reference in the Shastras, which Srila Prabhupada quotes, which is that Rate cha vamanam drishtva punar janma navidyate. Simply by seeing the Lord on the chariot, one makes advancement for stopping the repetition of birth and death. So it's amazing. Just seeing means you will make advancement in stopping the repetition of birth and death. Amazing. So people in India very much understand this. And that's why Rathayatra in Jagannath Puri is crazy. I have some friends from Michigan and they're going there right now. They're from the Krishna House project up there. And only a few of them are actually going into the crowd. Most of them are planning to be up on a balcony and watching from a safe distance because it's dangerous actually to be in those crowds. But people understand. if I see the Rathayatra, if I pull the rope of Lord Jagannath's cart, if I sweep in front of the Lord's cart, if I see Lord Jagannath on his cart, if I take some of the prasadam that is thrown down from the cart, people will climb up onto the cart and try to go and get closer darshan, or maybe even try to embrace the Lord. Some people even try to throw themselves under the wheel of the cart. So now Srila Prabhupada made a caveat. Yes, simply by seeing the Lord on the cart, one actually not only makes advancement in stopping the repetition of birth and death, but Srila Prabhupada said in a press conference in San Francisco on July 4th, 1970, that according to Vedic scripture, if you participate in this festival, in your next life, you'll go back home, back to Godhead. Now that's amazing. Just participating in the Rathayatra festival, your next life, you go back to Godhead. So he adds, though, that he gives an analogy. Suppose if I advertise that anyone who comes to this hospital, he'll be cured of his disease. That's a fact. But if he thinks that I have come here, now I am going, then how he'll be cured? To see Jagannath on the Rathayatra, his way for liberation is open. But if he comes back again and entangles himself, then one goes to the doctor, he gives injection, the disease is cured, but again he comes back and does the same thing so that he develops this disease again. So the important note here is that, yes, participating in the Rathayatra festival, you will actually go back to Godhead in your next life. But you have to follow the process of Krishna consciousness. So like Lord Jesus said, you give up everything, you surrender to God, you follow me, but you sin no more. He says that he will relieve his followers of their sins, but they have to then give up their sinful habits. So like that, people who attend the Rathayatra festival, we should give them opportunities for further advancement. We should collect their contact information. We should advertise other programs that they can attend so they can learn more online or in person at our temples, and make sure that there is clear philosophy. Generally, I've seen at Rathayatras, there's always question and answer booth, or there's a philosophical discussion tent, so people have the opportunity to learn more how they can apply the practice of Krishna consciousness in their life, so they can actually go back to Godhead by their participation in the Rathayatra festival. So going further, someone who actually begins to develop some understanding that there is a God, and my whole life isn't just meant for my pleasure. Srila Prabhupada gave a very simple definition of Rathayatra. This was in London on August 3rd, 1971. Someone asked, will you explain the significance of Rathayatra festival? Srila Prabhupada said, the purpose of Rathayatra is to see how Krishna is enjoying. So you see Lord Jagannath on his cart, this huge, wonderful, opulent cart. He's being fanned, worshipped by his servants. He's being offered fruits and sweets and all sorts of wonderful food and water. And in front of him, he has a crowd of people singing his names and lovingly looking back at him and dancing for his pleasure. Especially in the New York Rathayatra, the Lord is riding through the streets through these enormous skyscrapers, and his grand entrance into New York City down Fifth Avenue. It's amazing, amazing. One devotee during the festival, he turned to me and said, Lord Jagannath is conquering New York City. Of course, he's Jagannath, he's the Lord of the universe. What to speak of New York City? But for the people of New York City, they can begin to understand, okay, this is the Lord, not whoever is the current mayor of New York, not the current president of the United States. No, Lord Jagannath, he is the real president. He presides over not just New York City, not just the United States, not just planet Earth, not just this universe, the Supreme Lord of everything. So one who's a bit more advanced in their God consciousness and their advancement, they can understand, okay, God is the supreme enjoyer. Who can enjoy more than the Supreme Lord? And you have this understanding of the opulence of the Lord. You see Lord Jagannath being worshipped with such great devotion and such beautiful offerings. And especially you go after the festival, or after the parade, to where the deities are stationed in their altar. You can see crowds of people coming and making offerings, seeking blessings. So we can understand that this is like Shanta Rasa, the awe and reverence relationship with God. That God is great and I should worship him. So at the least, people can give some money. They can bow down to the deity. They can appreciate the opulence of this festival. So this is another angle of understanding the Rathayatra from one who's a bit more advanced. But even further, someone thinks, okay, God is supplying everything at every moment, eternally, for everyone. So maybe I should do something for him. Just maybe I should give something back. This is called Dasya Rasa, the mellow of service. So like Maharaj Prataparudra, this is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he swept the cart in front of Lord Jagannath's cart. And he was the king, but he was humbly taking on this service of just sweeping the ground in front of the cart. So this is one service you can do at Rathayatra, or just pulling on the cart, helping. Or a few of us, after the Rathayatra, we had the fortune of unloading all of the Rathayatra paraphernalia. At 11:30 p.m., there were 6 huge rental trucks that arrived, and we got to unload the trucks to store everything back in the Brooklyn temple. It was actually the most blissful experience. It reminded me of the Gundicha Marjana Leela, where Lord Chaitanya and his devotees are cleaning this Gundicha temple before Lord Jagannath's arrival there during the Rathayatra festival. Because as the service went on, generally in material life, if you're working on and on, you'll get more and more tired and less enthusiastic to do it. And you're just eager to go home, finish the 9 to 5. But here we were, 11:30 at night, and we were unloading heavy things from these huge trucks. But we were getting more and more blissful as we went on. And we started to, as we were passing items along, we would say different names of deities, or we would say different names of Krishna. And it became more and more blissful. And it even started raining on us. but it just became more of a challenge and a fun adventure. So this is the joy of dasya rasa. As you begin to understand more of our relationship with Krishna, then you get so much pleasure. You don't just have this neutral relationship or this selfish relationship where it's all about me, or, okay, I'm going to worship God, but I don't have much to do with him. He's so great and I'm so tiny, and there's not much more than that. No, this is actually very personal, developing this relationship of servitude. So another level is King Indradyumna. So King Indradyumna was so attached to this deity he saw in the forest called Nilamadava that he actually commissioned someone to carve a replica of Nilamadava. And the condition was that if King Indradyumna interrupted, if he came in to the carving of the deity and interrupted, then the devotee carving the deity would stop at once. And so King Indradyumna, out of his great eagerness to see the Lord, he couldn't wait. He could not resist. So he opened the door and came in, and the carver stopped, and there was Lord Jagannath, half finished, stumps for arms, no legs, and yet infinitely beautiful, nevertheless. So this is one level of seeing Lord Jagannath from the perspective of Indradyumna Maharaj. He was so attached, so anxious, that he couldn't resist seeing him. So this is even more advanced understanding of Jagannath, of the Rathayatra festival, is being so attached to seeing the Lord that you just can't resist. So another perspective is Lord Chaitanya himself and Jagannath himself. So this gets to the topmost limit of understanding Rathayatra. And I'm certainly skipping. There's many more you can add, different levels of understanding. So afterwards, I'd love to hear if any of you have additions. But Lord Chaitanya, the way he understood Rathayatra, I can't begin to explain in much detail, but I can basically understand that Lord Chaitanya was experiencing the highest ecstasy of Vipralamba Bhava, the ecstasy of love in separation. Because Lord Krishna had left Vrindavan very early in his pastimes and went to Mathura and on to Dwaraka. He became a king of Dwaraka, so opulent, so many soldiers and queens, 16,108 queens, all with their own palace. And there was a lunar eclipse, and it was an auspicious time to go to Kurukshetra, which is a Dharma Kshetra. It's a place of pilgrimage. So many people assembled in Kurukshetra, where eventually the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. And the residents of Vrindavan, longing to see Krishna for so long, finally were able to see him again. But he wasn't the same. The way they knew Lord Krishna was like this. I have this picture I like. Oh, turn off my blur. So this is how they knew Lord Krishna, is simple, dhoti, no shoes, turban, no shirt, simple like that. But when he was at the Kurukshetra during the lunar eclipse, he was dressed in his armor and crown and jewels studded all over, and so many soldiers, all of his queens. And so it wasn't the same mood. So although the residents of Vrindavan, especially the gopis, who had been practically dying in separation from Lord Krishna, they were with him, but they weren't with him. And so in this mood, Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of Radharani, when he would see the Rathayatra festival, when he would see Lord Jagannath, he would think of this love and separation. And he even sang this mundane love song about how here we are on the banks of this river, we're together, but it's not the same as it used to be. And most people didn't understand, because this was it just sounded like a romantic love song. But actually Lord Chaitanya was describing the mood in separation that the gopis were feeling. And so Lord Chaitanya, he experiences the highest ecstasy. This is his understanding of Rathayatra. And then Lord Jagannath himself, so in relation to this verse, Tava katamratam, the nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities. So in Kurukshetra, there was narration of the Lord's pastimes going on between, I believe it was Mother Yashoda and the queens of Dwarka. Please someone correct me if I'm wrong. And during this narration of the Lord's Vrindavan pastimes, it was, I'm not remembering who first, but Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra, all three of them, upon hearing the Vrindavan Leela of Lord Krishna, went into ecstasy, which is why, another reason why the deities look like they do, because Lord Krishna, on hearing his own pastimes in Vrindavan, Tava Katamritam, they're so full of nectar that he went into ecstasy. This is how amazing they are. Tava Katamritam. Even the Supreme Lord himself relishes his own pastimes to the point of going into ecstasy. So I've explained a bit from the lowest level of consciousness all the way up to the Supreme Lord himself and different angles of understanding Rathayatra. Shravana Mangalam, at the lowest level, there is auspiciousness and removal of sinful reactions for even the lowest consciousness people. At the highest level, those great devotees and the Supreme Lord himself relish the katamritam, the nectarian descriptions of the Lord. So this gives some spectrum of understanding Rathayatra. And now I'd like to hear if there are reflections or thoughts on this or corrections. And then I will briefly share about Swarup Damodar as well. So please, does anybody have anything they would like to share about Rathayatra?
Please just unmute yourself and go ahead if you want to share some reflections. But just like you were saying about New York Rathayatra on Fifth Avenue, in Philadelphia, when you turn around and you look at the chariot and Billy Penn in the background, every year I get goosebumps and I'm thinking about what Prabhupada has accomplished. And I'm sure in every city there is an iconic building or an iconic background against which you see the cart. And like you were saying, all around the world, this happens now, not just in Puri. Every year I'm always thinking about that, but on Monday, Murlidhar Prabhu was in the temple room talking. I think they were talking about Bhagavad Gita and a verse. And that was his memory that he said, when I turn around and I look at all the flags on Ben Franklin Parkway and the cart, it's just unexplainable what it is, but there is a feeling of happiness that's just unexplainable. And like you were saying, the bliss you were in doing that service in Philadelphia. So usually schools start in early September, at least in this area, that's when school starts. So Sunday school should start in September, but we don't, because there is a frenzy. I mean, yeah, from mid-August on it starts, and there is just, everybody is only talking, thinking, and working on Rath Yatra. So time is coming up, and we'll all be engaged again in that service. Yes, Acharya Prabhu, go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna. I really like that point, Mataji, about like appreciating your local Rathayatra and knowing like the iconic buildings in your own city and seeing the Rathayatra there. And that just reminded me of a little story. When Prabhupada, when they put on a London Rathayatra, one of the local newspapers said that the Rathayatra cart challenged Lord Nelson's column. And Lord Nelson was some big British hero. I don't know the history, but Prabhupada loved that so much. Not just because it was glorifying, but, an Indian coming to England, and he brought the Rathayatra there, and the Rathayatra was challenging Lord Nelson's column. He was so ecstatic to hear that article saying that. He really liked it. So that was just an example of Prabhupada doing that, also feeling like appreciating like the local color of a local Rathayatra. I just wanted to share that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And there was another quote from Srila Prabhupada describing in a press conference what is the meaning of Rathayatra. Actually, this was a conversation, and he said that reporters had said, "This is East meets West," and Srila Prabhupada said, "Yes, that is actually the fact. This Rathayatra is East meets West." That's another way to understand this Rathayatra festival. Yes, Mother Vindhyavali, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dalot Pranams. So it's a very nice thing to hear about Rathayatra. 1 year I was there, like you're saying, seeing that crowd in Puri, seeing that crowd. We were staying upstairs on some balcony. We were watching that crowd and chariot, because we couldn't dare to go and pull the chariot in that crowd. It was so much like an ocean. Near Gundicha, there was a hotel or something. It's not a hotel. We rented a room there. We were staying in the balcony, and we were watching that. It was so good to watch that, those chariots. And then afterwards, we touched the chariots, so big ones. And like you said, yes, from my childhood, I was hearing People used to throw themselves under the wheel of chariot. Dying there is a very good boon. That's what they used to say. And then New York Rathayatra, I was telling everybody, see how much trouble Prabhupada, at beginning he came alone and he did. But when we were going, we were a little late, and then we want to catch a chariot in some street. Whichever street we go, the street was blocked, and people couldn't get some of the cars, they were turning back. And then you see, you can imagine that Prabhupada went alone, but he's making even people in West, they're just stand still, and they couldn't move anywhere until the chariot goes. So royal right, Jagannathji went, and then a lot of crowd went, they were singing and dancing. That was the real thing, how much Prabhupada took the trouble, and that we are enjoying. And Jagannathaji is just going royal right in the streets. And people from here, from New York, they are all waiting and watching. They were helpless. They cannot go into the street at all until the chariot goes. So that was the thing. That was the thing I felt so happy. That Prabhupada's trouble, what he took, how he wanted to preach in West, which he succeeded. It's very, very nice.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
I was thinking of Rathayatra in comparison to other similar events that you might see in any big city. Maybe you'd see a big political rally, and the mayor comes down in a limousine or in a convertible car with the top down. Everyone can see, and people are cheering. People have signs with that person's name on it. But that only lasts for a short time. And maybe a few years that person can enjoy this type of fame. But Lord Jagannath, for centuries, for millennia, forever actually, he's eternally worshipped in this way. And in New York City for decades now, he goes down the street. Who can say they have the same level of fame as Lord Jagannath?
Yeah, that's true.
Golokananda Priya Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. One of the Rathayatra in the US that I really used to like it several years ago, before the 9/11, they used to have on the 4th of July in Washington, D.C. That was amazing, Rathayatra, because you can see, like so many people, because Independence Day, even, sometimes the president, so, can see Lord Jagannath. Unfortunately, nowadays, we just have one card, and it's not so popular than, but previously, before 9/11, it was very, very, but yet, I don't know whether anyone has been to one of them. I used to go almost every year. It was not far from where I live. I live in North Carolina, it was like 4 hours drive. And that was amazing. I wish we can have it again, because a lot of devotees, like in New York, was bigger than New York at that time. But nowadays, New York is one of the biggest Rathayatra, most attended Rathayatra that we have in the US.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. There's so many varieties of the Rathayatras. We can even go back to Srila Prabhupada's childhood. He had his own Rathayatra festival.
Yeah.
His father helped him arrange. He had a tiny cart and deities, and they did the whole thing, a multi-day festival. That little Abai, our Srila Prabhupada, he put on with the help of his father and his local community. So Srila Prabhupada's heart has always been attached to Lord Jagannatha and this Rathayatra festival. Now, how pleased would he be to see in Washington, D.C., New York City, Philadelphia, San Francisco, everywhere, going on every year. these Rathayatras. And one of them, humorously, this is the Pirate Festival in Tampa, Florida. It's called Gasparilla, this big festival, and people dress up like pirates, and they have these big parade floats, which are decked out like pirate ships. And it's a very, very degraded environment. People are just getting drunk and dressing practically like prostitutes. It's really a sad scene. But somehow, I believe it's Bhadra Prabhu, who is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada in Alachua. He convinced the local government or the festival organizers to get Lord Jagannath in the festival, because he said something to the effect that Lord Jagannath is the king of the pirates. He's the king of everyone, and also the pirates. So yes, it's true. And so year after year, Lord Jagannath participates in this pirate festival in Tampa, Florida. It's an enormous festival. And it was one of the most ecstatic Rathayatras I've participated in. So we could go on for days just talking about different Rathayatras and experiences we've had. Thank you, Mother Golokananda Priya, for bringing in that variety. Any other thoughts on Rathayatra? So just a few words of glorification of Swarup Damodar for his disappearance day. He was a very intimate servant, devotee of Lord Chaitanya. So intimate that he understood the moods of Lord Chaitanya. And ecstasy in Krishna consciousness is unlimited. And there's no limit to the variety of ecstasy that one experiences. And so Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of Radharani, was experiencing the topmost variety and the topmost ecstasy in his especially later pastimes when he was in Puri, in the Gambhira, in his room in the Jagannath Puri area. So Swarup Damodar understood the moods and the ecstasies that Lord Chaitanya was in, and so he would be able to sing these verses, which would perfectly enhance these ecstasies of Lord Chaitanya and allow him to go deeper and deeper into his ecstasies. So this was the amazing intimacy of Swarup Damodar in his relationship with Lord Chaitanya. And he was protective of Lord Chaitanya's ecstasies. So not only did he actively enhance the ecstasies of the Lord, but he would also actively protect them by keeping away unfavorable influences. There was an instance where someone brought a poem they wanted to present to Lord Chaitanya. In fact, anyone who wanted to present some writing to Lord Chaitanya would have to first get it checked by Swarup Damodar. And if it wasn't accurate, presenting the truth in accordance with the Shastra, or if it was rasa basa, if it was conflicting and a misrepresentation of moods of Krishna consciousness, and it would be displeasing to Lord Chaitanya, or if it was outright offensive, then Swarup Damodar would prevent that from reaching the ears of Lord Chaitanya, to not put him into a disturbed state, not to kill his vibe, as we say in modern slang, to not diminish the ecstasy of Lord Chaitanya. So, in one instance, this person wanted to present a poem to Lord Chaitanya, but Swarup Damodar was not happy with it, because this person was saying that Lord Chaitanya is like the soul and Lord Jagannath is like the body. And it's a misunderstanding because Lord Jagannath is Lord Chaitanya, he is Lord Krishna. And he's not just a material body, he's not just a shell, he's actually a person, he is the supreme person. So this would have been very displeasing to Lord Chaitanya, so Swarup Damodar prevented it. So these are a few things in my understanding of Swarup Damodar, enhancing and protecting the ecstasies of Lord Chaitanya. And I'd love to hear if others have additions about Swarup Damodar or other reflections. Yes, Acharya Prabhu.
We can thank also Swarup Damodar largely, not 100%, but largely for the existence of Chaitanya Charitamrita, because a lot of it, we know Krishnadas Kaviraj came after. So he got a lot of the history and activities and talks and meetings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from the notebooks of Swarup Damodar and Raghunath Das also. But Swarup Damodar, especially, his contribution just to the existence of Chaitanya Charitamrita is there.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, we're very fortunate we can hear the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and learn about what it means to be a devotee and how the devotees interact with each other. It's so recent, and for me, it's a lot easier to go into than Krishna's pastimes because it's a little closer in time, a little more easy to understand. And then when we hear about Srila Prabhupada's pastimes, even more so, we can easily dive in and relish and understand. So any other thoughts on anything we've discussed in this class before we finish? Any other Rathayatra experiences anyone wants to recount? Well, thank you all. Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, I have been to New York Rathayatra once when my kids were little. They were in 4th grade, 6th grade. And I always remember how my kids enjoyed that Rathayatra. They were tired, thirsty, but still they were enjoying. And in between, they used to enter into the shops nearby, get Gatorade, and just keep going. So I always remember that in Rathayatra. That was really special. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
The opportunity to say. Thank you.
Yeah, we can become exhausted, hungry, and thirsty, or sunburned. Our throat hurts from chanting so much, but we're still enjoying because we're giving our full energy to the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I don't think I will be here, unfortunately, for the Philadelphia Rathayatra, but I hope that it is bigger than ever before, and you all can distribute more prasadam than ever before, and more people hear the holy names, and that you all can cooperate blissfully for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath, who has been presiding over this community for many decades. So Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai,
Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhobhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Nice memories and nice sweet memories of Jagannath's Rathayatra. That was
Yes.
really very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.